solution we can define as a mixture of two or more substances. Now, how to prepare a solution? So for that, what we can take is, we can take a glass of water or a beaker of water, then take 1 tablespoon of sugar, or you can take 1 cube of sugar. Then what you do? You drop that sugar in the glass of water. What will happen if you drop a sugar cube in the glass of water? You see that after some times, the sugar cube which is present is going to break up, and those after some times they spread. Then when you taste this water after some times, it's going to taste sweet. How does this happen? Okay. Now, how you are going to prepare a solution? First, you need to take a solute plus the solvent, which gives you what we call as a solution. Now, if we take this as an example, what we did, we took a sugar cube, that is in a small amount. We call that as a solute. Plus, we have taken water in a large volume. 1 glass of water we have taken. That is the solvent in the form of water. Together, when we put one substance into another, they are going to form a solution. What is that solution now? It is the sugar solution. Now, let us know one more term. What do you understand by concentration? See, concentration is nothing but the amount of substance that is dissolved in a given volume. So, if we take 1 glass of water, take 1 cube of sugar, and when we dissolve, we get a sugar solution, no doubt. But what is the amount of sugar you have used? It is less. So, we call that as low concentrated solution. When the solute is less, we get a low concentrated solution. Similarly, if you take same glass of water with 4 tablespoons of sugar, how will be the solution? Of course, it will be very sweet to taste compared to the first solution. So what we did here, we have increased the volume, we have increased the amount of sugar. So the concentration of the solute has increased. Therefore, we get a sweeter solution with high concentration of the solute. So that we call as hypertonic solution. The first solution we call as hypotonic solution, where concentration of sugar is less, hyper where concentration of sugar is more. Now let's see what's happening here. Now in previous slide we have seen we have taken sugar. In this case, let's take salt, and this salt we name as potassium permagnetate. This is a colored salt. So in case of sugar solution, we didn't see how the molecules are moving. Let's see in this case what happens. So we take a beaker or a test tube, then add in the salt. When you add the salt, the concentration of salt is where? At the bottom, right? This is more concentrated compared to other sides. So now if you keep this for some time, what happens? The salt which was present in a high concentration at one place, slowly it starts moving up, right? You can see the change in color. And after some time, you can see further increase in the movement of the molecules. And finally what you see, that the molecules which were concentrated at the very basis where they were more, they started moving from the higher region, from where they are more, to the region where there was nothing, right? It was below. Now you can see here it has spread to the entire container. So the color has spread to this entire container and we see a colored solution. So this is spreading of the molecules from one place where it is high to a low place where it is low in concentration. Till when? Until equilibrium is reached. Okay. Now, what changes did you notice here? And whatever the changes you notice, were they immediate? No. You saw that it took time for this process to happen. So this process is not gradual. Now why these changes have taken place? That's because we see that the movement of molecules. How do we define this? Diffusion is nothing but a process in which the molecules they move from a region where they are at higher concentration to a region where they are in lower concentration. So now what happens, see here? You can see there are more molecules at this side, therefore it is higher concentration. And where they are moving towards the place where they are less concentrated or there is more space. Like more students in this class and very few students in the next class. What happens? They start moving from the crowded area to a less crowded area. This is what is diffusion. Now this is because of more and this is because of less molecules or the less concentration. Now there are two types. One, if it takes energy for this movement to happen, then we call as active transport, or if there is no involvement of energy, we name as passive transport. Okay, this movement happens in two ways: active where energy is required, passive where it does not require energy, it is natural. Now let's see what are the examples here. This is the coffee and then the perfume and finally the tea. Now all these are the examples of diffusion. If you, for example, this perfume bottle, when you open the lid of a perfume in one corner of a room, you see after sometimes the entire room gets this smell. That's because of diffusing of gaseous molecules, spreading of gaseous molecules. Similarly, here the pleasant smelling of coffee, the tea. Whenever you make a tea, you see initially the water is colorless. The moment you add the tea leaves, gradually there is change in color from water to this colored solution. Now let's see that if a cell, when we say as living, there are certain things. It has to survive, it has to take in food, and that food provides nutrients. And nutrients, what it does, it gives you energy. And why you require energy? For all the cellular activities, you require energy, right? Now, how do these things enter into the cell? Let's see now. So now we have understood that in a living cell, it has a basic component which is very, very essential. What it is? The cell membrane. A doubled layer made up of lipid bilayer. It has two parts. The outer part is having the polar region, which is water loving. Layer which is sandwiched between these two layers is water hating regions. So this is the tail region and this is the head region. Now apart from that, the bilayer membrane also has proteins which we call as carrier proteins and the protein channels. In addition to that, they also have carbohydrates. All this are going to help in movement of molecules, recognizing of molecules. Let's see how. Now what is the characteristic feature of a membrane? It is semi-permeable. That means not everything can enter the cell. Only those things that are required for the cell will enter, and those things that are not required can leave the cell. Therefore, we consider that as semi-permeable membrane. And membrane is also flexible, and because of this flexible nature, we can see later in the slide how it is helpful. And we see that the main job of a membrane is to protect the cell from external harsh conditions, also to maintain the balance within the cell. Now as we have seen, the membrane has the protein channels. These are the protein channels. Then it also has protein carriers. By using this, those molecules which cannot diffuse or pass easily through the membrane can go through this assisted process, wherein the membrane channels are just like special open gates where molecules can gain an entry. And this carrier proteins, the membrane molecules can bind to them and it's going to change its shape, then release to the other side of the membrane. This is what we have seen here. Okay. Now let's see what is the important process that helps this movement to occur, what we call as osmosis. This is a special type of diffusion. Osmosis is the movement of only water molecule from a region of the place where water is high in concentration to a place where water is low in concentration only through a semi-permeable membrane. Then only we call that process as osmosis. Now this is the membrane, you can see. So these are the channels which helps in passing of the other molecules which cannot directly enter the membrane, and these are the molecules which can directly enter the membrane the other side. Small molecules like the water, carbon dioxide and oxygen can easily diffuse through the membrane, whereas the charged molecules cannot enter directly. They require assistance. Now, as we said about diffusion here, if it does not involve the input of energy, we call that passive transport, where the charged particles, where it has to transport from one part of the membrane to the another by expenditure of energy by using ATP as a source of energy for active transport. So thank you.